from this computer. Today we have Aiden Bushell of, I forget your company's name, Pressure Cooker.
Pressure Cooker Passion.
Okay, Pressure Cooker Passion. Aiden has been at the library before teaching us how to use these wonderful Instant Pots that all we've been doing is boiling eggs in, and there they are. And today he's going to talk about some summer recipes, barbecue chicken, all kinds of things. And if you want the recipes, you can email me at nconnors@hwpl.org, or if you're on, just go to the chat and you will see the link to his recipes. So I'm turning this over to Aiden. Thank you for coming, Aiden.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everybody at Hewlett, Nadine especially, for reaching out to me. I hope everybody's doing well and staying safe during these trying times. But we're going to get started. I am a Instant Pot blogger and enthusiast, as you can see. Pots here. If you've never used an Instant Pot, it's basically a multi-cooker. So that means it does multiple things. It has a lot of different functionality. You can saute in them, you can pressure cook in them, slow cook, you can make rice, you can make yogurt. You can do a whole myriad of things. And that's kind of why they've become so popular. I know a lot of people who use them and love them. Me personally, obviously I'm a big fan. But one of the things that I like doing actually is in the summer, you can do a lot of fun things. If you stuck inside on a rainy day and you had your heart set on some barbecue, or maybe you are in an apartment and you're not allowed to have a barbecue, you can always kind of find ways to work around that, and using the Instant Pot's a really great way to do it. Actually, a lot of times I'll make things in here ahead of time, and maybe I'll finish them on my grill. It's always a good option if you want to, entertain and not be totally committed to standing in front of the grill for hours and hours on end when you're actually hosting a barbecue. And I think we have a little sneak coming through here. That's my daughter. It's okay, man. You can walk through. All right. So the first thing we're going to make is a Coca-Cola chicken. All right. So you could do this with bone-in chicken, or you could do it with boneless chicken if you want. If you're doing bone-in, probably just going to increase the cook time to 12 minutes instead of what I have stated there. But basically, I have a couple pieces of chicken breast here. I've cut them in half. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some rub on it. So I make a dry rub. I actually usually make a whole bunch at a time. I think, I want to say like in May, I'll usually make a big batch of it, and it kind of lasts me throughout the year. But my dry rub consists of a lot of spices, like most do. There's obviously a lot of different options out there for dry rub. But what I like to use is cumin, some paprika, some garlic powder, some onion powder, chili powder, brown sugar, kosher salt, cayenne pepper, black pepper, white pepper, and some mustard powder. Okay, so that's kind of my my go-to. So if you want, you can either use my recipe or you can use another one. Like I said, there's a lot of different options out there for dry rub. So we're going to coat our chicken with this in 1 second. First thing we're going to do is actually get our liquids inside of our Instant Pot, because when you're cooking with the Instant Pot, you need some liquid. You need to generate some heat, and that's what the Instant Pot does. That heat will make the liquids boil, will create some steam, and the steam is what's going to help us cook the food inside, okay? And essentially, we're going to pressure cook it. So for this one, we're using a good old can of Coca-Cola. Pop it open. We're going to pour it right in here. So the Coca-Cola will add a nice sweetness to it, and we're actually going to reserve some of this and use it for a barbecue sauce. All right, so you're going to have a Coca-Cola-based barbecue sauce. It's pretty cool. Now, I'm using some aromatics in here. So I have an onion. I basically just took an onion, chopped it in half. All right, and I have a couple cloves of garlic. You can use 2 or 3. Stick it right in there with the Coca-Cola. And I also have 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Okay, put that right in there. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to coat this chicken. All right. I'm going to actually just take this. This is probably about 1/4 cup, and I have 3 big chicken breasts in here. I'm just going to do both sides, top and bottom. I'll show you what it looks like once I show. Here we go. So when you complete it, it's going to look like that. Cover both sides, and you're just going to lay it right in the pot, right in the liquid. It's okay if some of that, the seasoning, we want it to kind of go into the Coca-Cola. That's absolutely fine. It's going to add some really nice flavor to it. And it'll complement our sauce when we're ready to make that. Okay. So I'm just covering all my chicken here. Just going to toss it around in my bowl. Make sure we get it all. If you give it a couple tosses, they all should be pretty good looking, like that. Now, if you were using something bone-in, you could use bone-in thighs. Those are usually my favorites for barbecue. Or maybe some drumsticks. And you could really cook them the exact same way. And it's okay if you end up layering these on top of each other. That's fine. Like, let's say you wanted to make a lot more than what I was making here. Like, if you wanted to double this recipe, as long as you have room in your Instant Pot, you can do that. Cook times won't change. Potentially, you would add like just a little, maybe another half can of Coke, a little bit more liquid. Okay. So we've got everything in here: our chicken, our onions, our garlic, our soda, our vinegar. And what we're going to do next is we're going to take our lid, we're going to put it on, we're going to seal it, we're going to hit pressure cook, and we're going to set the timer for 8 minutes. What we're going to use are these, the minus button and the plus button help you adjust your time. When I say you seal the lid, there's a little valve in the back here, and it has 2 positions. Basically, vent looks like that, and seal looks like that. Open like that. So seal is will mean when you're looking at it, it'll basically kind of be at a right angle, okay? And when you're venting it, it'll kind of be angled towards you, all right? The other thing I'll call out here, this guy, this is your float pin. So right now what we did is we set our timer, right? And what's gonna happen, like we talked about earlier, we're gonna start to pressurize. So what that means is that the liquid's gonna get heated, it's gonna create steam. The steam is eventually gonna push this float pin all the way to the top, and that'll seal your Instant Pot, okay? There's a little ring in here that helps seal it up, much like a stovetop pressure cooker. Once it's sealed, the next minute or so, a timer will come up and it'll begin to count down. And that's when you're actually pressure cooking. So once the timer appears on your Instant Pot screen, your pressure cook has begun. And the next thing that will happen is it'll count down all the way to 0. And at which point, you know, you'll take the next step in your recipe. Some recipes call for you to leave it in there, let the pressure return naturally. Some want you to stop it cooking right away. Some of it want you to do a combination. But we'll talk more about that in a second. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is our mac and cheese. Just rinsing my hands here. Leave this here, down later. We'll get through this one. Let's grab a little bit of water in here. All right. So, mac and cheese, always a popular item. Really common for you to see this at, you know, if you go to a barbecue restaurant as a side dish option. And it's a nice alternative for making, you know, if you have small kids, you can always make a big batch of this and kind of, you know, give it to them if they're really big craft. If they're used to having mac and cheese like a Kraft one, this is a great alternative. You can make it in here. It's really fast. You know, you're not using anything that is loaded with preservatives. You can use like real cheese, which is great. You could also kind of curtail it down what you like it. You know, if you like more cheese, you could add a little bit more. If you like it to be a little bit creamier, you can put a little more milk in, or vice versa. If you like it to be a little bit less, you can kind of pull it back a little bit. So that's kind of nice. You know, specifically when you're making it here, you have that flexibility to make it the way that you really like it. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do here, when we go to our mac and cheese recipe, make sure I got the right one. Okay. Is I'm going to take my water I'm going to put in some onion powder, some dry mustard powder, some seasoned salt, and a little bit of pepper and butter into the Instant Pot. Okay? So we're using 3 cups of water. One.
Aiden, what if you wanted to use real onions instead of onion powder?
You wanted to use real onions? I suppose you could. I've never actually done it, but if I was going to do it, I would probably saute them. I would take maybe like a half onion or a quarter of an onion and saute it. And then I would basically just add in the water after they had been, you know, they had become translucent, and just leave the onion powder out of the recipe. Okay? Got our elbow macaroni. We're going to toss in a tablespoon of butter. And then the aforementioned seasoning. So I'm just going to give this a good stir now. All right. I really just want to make sure everything is combined well. Looks good. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is take my lid, place it on top here. Now I'm going to twist it and lock it into place like I did with my other one. I'm going to set it to the seal position. We'll do pressure cook, and we're going to set this one for 6 minutes. Okay. And one of the cool things about making pasta or even mac and cheese in the Instant Pot is you don't really have to drain the liquid afterwards. You know, if you want to make your life a little bit easier and you want to have less cleanup, it's really great for one-pot dishes. So what's going to happen is all that great flavor is going to get absorbed into the noodles there. The little bit of water that is remaining, we actually need that. That'll help add some creaminess to the mac and cheese, and melt, you know, our cream cheese and our actual cheddar that we put in there. Okay. So that's going to start pressure cooking in a couple of minutes. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab my corn, and we'll get going on. So I'm actually only going to do 3 ears of corn today because there's only 3 people in my house that eat corn, so I don't really want to waste too much of it. But if you are like, I guess, pretty much everybody here, you're fortunate enough to live on Long Island. We have lots of great corn out east. You know, if you don't get out east, you get some at your supermarket. You know, this is the season. What I like to do with my Instant Pot corn is I actually like to cut the sides off like this. I just think it makes it a little bit easier to eat if you got those little corn forks at the end. Obviously, you can use a brush to remove any of the soak that might be left on the corn. And that's generally what I do. I actually have a scrub brush, and I kind of just go like that. I use it for like my potatoes and my vegetables. One of the reasons, and Nadine and I were talking about this earlier, we both like using our pressure cookers for corn is it doesn't get waterlogged. So it retains a lot of that natural flavor that it has. It doesn't really get diluted or sucked out by the water. And it also stays really crisp, which is nice. Because there's nothing worse than biting into like a mushy ear of corn. So yeah, it's definitely a nice way to do it, and it's super fast. You don't have to wait, you know, a really long time for a huge pot of water to boil. You know, if you have a couple people over and you're doing a barbecue and you got 10 or 12 years, you can really crank them out in here in a couple of minutes, which is great. All right, so I have my corn all ready to go. Here's right here. Oops, I almost dropped it on the soak. Okay, there we go. I have my point, and what I'm actually going to use, this guy right here. This is trivet. This is a steamer rack. And basically what we want to do is we want to put this into our Instant Pot, and we rest our corn on top of it. And what this allows us to do is to pressure cook our food and not have it submerged in the liquid. If you submerge it in the liquid, you're basically boiling it, not much different than you'd be making it on your, on your stove top sitting in water. So this is a really great device. It comes with most Instant Pots. A couple people have given me feedback that they bought one and didn't have it in there, but I've bought, I think 4 or 5 Instant Pots. They've all come with them. So I don't know if it's maybe a brand thing or what, but regardless, you can find these on Amazon for like probably $10 or less. So I'm going to put this in. I'm going to go ahead and add my liquid to the Instant Pot. So I think today, just make sure, I don't want to give you guys the wrong information here. I'm using 2 cups of water. 1 cup, 2 cups of water. Okay. Put these in here, let them rest right on top of our rack there. We'll set it, we'll twist it and seal it. And then we're going to hit the pressure cook button, and we're going to change this to 2 minutes. Okay? Okay. Now it's set for 2 minutes and it has been sealed up. So we'll let that start to heat up. I actually can hear right now that the chicken dish is starting to steam, and I can hear some of the steam escaping in the back here. That means it's getting closer and closer to the pot sealing up. So that usually takes anywhere from, I want to say like 5 to, on the way long end, like 18 minutes. It really depends on what you have in there. So if I'm cooking something that is very dense, like dried beans, risotto, like a big pork shoulder or something like that, it takes a while for it to heat up. The Instant Pot has to just work that much harder to generate the steam because there is that amount of mass in there. Versus something like the corn or like the noodles here, it doesn't take very long at all. I expect both of these to pop on in the next, like, I want to say 5 minutes. They should both be going at the timer to be up. All right. I'm going to actually grab some of my stuff here to bake because we're going to do a cornbread in this thing. A little space here. All right, so full disclosure, this is not a recipe from my website. It's from somebody I found online. Her website's called sugarysweets.com. I'm not much of a baker, so I've kind of been testing out different cornbreads. This is one that I've actually liked, so I give credit to her. So what we have here is the buttermilk. We have some cornmeal. We have some flour. We have some milk. Flour, some sugar, some baking powder, and a little bit of vegetable oil. Okay, and an egg. All right. So what we're gonna do is put our egg and our buttermilk in here, and we're gonna whisk. Okay. First, we'll do our egg, and then we'll start adding in our. So when we're whisking, what we're really trying to do is just get air incorporated into the food or whatever we're cooking, whether it be egg or batter or something like that. So I'm going to whisk this for about 15 seconds. Fun, fun, fun. My arm will work out. And cornbread's pretty cool too because you can definitely do a lot of different things with it. If you wanted to add like corn kernels, you could do that. I've seen a lot of people do like jalapeno cheddar cornbread. That's really popular. So I haven't really started exploring those recipes yet. I've obviously had them at other people's homes or at restaurants in the past. So it's something to consider. I've checked out a couple of them. They don't seem to be too difficult. So I might be challenging myself to make some of that in the future. All right, so that's been whisked. So now we're going to go ahead and add in the milk, the oil, the flour, the cornmeal, the sugar, the salt, and the baking powder. Spread this real quick. I think the hardest thing about doing this is you see them doing it on TV and you think, oh wow, it looks so easy. They're just pulling things out that are already chopped and everything like that. But I think it's really the space issue that becomes the hardest because at some point you're just kind of like, oh no, we're almost out of counter space to put everything at. Not coming from a traditional studio kitchen, TV studio kitchen, but we do make do. All right, so I have the buttermilk in here. I'm just going to give it a quick stir, and then we add in the other ingredients. Cornmeal, flour, oil, sugar, salt, and baking powder. So I'm going to abandon the whisk, and I'm going to grab a spoon for this. Otherwise, everything's going to get clumpy and stuck inside of the whisk, which will be a big pain in the butt. I'm going to do the best not to get any of this on my black shirt here, but we'll see what happens. It's always a risk. All right. I'll just point out that the chicken's been cooking for 2 minutes now. Our mac and cheese is on, so that started cooking. And we're just waiting for our corn to get going. There we go.
So it takes a while for the pot to heat up. Is that right?
Yeah. They call it it's like pressurization. It takes a while for it to pressurize.
Yeah, on the stove, the pressure cooker also takes a while, and then once it gets to pressure, you usually turn it down a little bit so it's stabilizes.
Yeah, then you kind of just fiddle with it. The thing that I kind of like about the Instant Pot versus doing the stovetop, obviously, like everybody has different, if you have a gas stove versus an electric stove, it's always a little easier to work on that. But the fact that they kind of predetermine, what's high pressure and low pressure, and if they feel like if the heat's getting too high, the machine automatically pulls it back, to keep it at that consistent heat, which is good because then you get nice even cooking, which is important. All right, so I've got my batter here. See, nice cornbread batter. And what we're going to do now, I'm going to grab my pan here. So this is a springform pan. This is a 7-inch one. So if you own a 6-quart Instant Pot, you're going to have to use a 7-inch pan, simply because the larger ones don't fit here. So if you have a bigger one that you use for your oven, you might have to size down. They're extremely useful too because there are a lot of things that you can bake in the pressure cooker. You know, cheesecakes are super popular. I've made monkey bread in here. The other thing I would suggest if you're gonna, you know, go down that route of trying to do breads and cakes and desserts, they have like bundt pans, the smaller ones that you can fit in here. Those are really good too. Some people make their cornbread in those instead of these guys. So that's just another option. But yeah, I would definitely say that the cheesecake is one of the most popular desserts you'll see online. Like there's a million variations of it. You know, chocolate cheesecake, cherry cheesecake, marshmallow cheesecake, you name it. There's if you've ever been to the Cheesecake Factory, you get it. There's a lot of different options.
I can't believe it. And you do it all in the Instant Pot.
Yeah, it's cool. And you know what's nice too? I know a lot of times when you bake them in the oven, sometimes you get that crack on the top with your cheesecake. But in here, you never really get it, which is really cool.
Interesting.
So if you're ever going to kind of make one to bring someplace, you know, it's
so use the spring form. Use the spring form.
Yeah, the spring form. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I did buy that other little pot to make the s'mores. They liked that.
Oh, yeah. The s'mores pot is everything. So I'm going to just use this to make sure nothing sticks. All right. Bring it around here. Just like you would when you cook a regular baking dish. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in the batter. All right. So we're just adding in the batter. Right in here. Just want to make sure you get everything out there, get it into your pan. Try not to release any if you can. So with the cornbread, what you can do is you actually, when the corn's out, I'll show you how to put it in here. I'm going to use that same pot. We will not have time for it to complete baking, but I made one, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. You know, pull it out. So you'll put it in there, you pressure cook it for like 55 minutes, and then you let it do like a 10-minute natural release, and then you're basically ready to go. So because it's the middle of summer and I have this barbecue program, I've been making cornbread like two times a week. So I have a whole excess around the house. Because every time I do a class, I basically end up with two, because I have one to show and I have the one that I make in the program. So it's a, you know, I guess it's a good problem to have if you like cornbread.
Yes.
Okay, so our chicken has 1 minute left. Our mac and cheese has 1 minute left. So when this one finishes, I'm going to do a quick release, and I'm just going to grab a towel so we can do that. So there are all different kinds of releases for your Instant Pot. There's quick release, there's natural release, and there's like a combination of the two. So I'm just going to grab this and show you guys what this is. So when something finishes, it'll just say L000 like that. And that basically means L stands for lapsed. So that'll tell you how much time has lapsed since your pressure cook is finished. The reason that's important is occasionally you'll get recipes that'll say pressure cook for 10 minutes and then 5-minute natural release, right? So what that means is you're going to leave it alone for 5 minutes after it's beeped and the zero shows up. And what actually happens is there's a reverse countdown clock. So it gives you a countdown now of how much time has lapsed since your pressure cook finishes. So it's going to start counting up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see 5. You release the pressure, whatever that might be remaining in there, and you let it happen. Since our mac and cheese is something that we definitely don't want to overcook, macaroni won't get soft, I'm going to release the pressure right now. And this is called a quick release. And you can see I'm putting a little dish towel over here. And the reason being is it can really help save your walls, your cabinets, because otherwise you're going to be getting like a direct shot of steam, which obviously is wet and hot. So, if you do it enough times, over a year, you're going to start to notice fading on your cabinets. Or, it's also messy. Sometimes if you're cooking something that has like a lot of oil or a fatty meat, or something that's really starchy, you might get like little froth of starch coming up, or you might get like some oils when you do that initial release. So it's just a good way to help kind of catch some of that residue that might be.
So it would be dangerous to put that in your sink because it's electric?
You wouldn't do it like you would with your pressure cooker where you just run it under the water. Primarily because this outside part, your outer pot, has all of your electrical components, so you would never want to get that wet. Yeah. That's why we do it this way. Okay? All right. So, let's get back into this. All right, so what we're going to do now is we've let the chicken sit there for an extra 2 minutes because we were doing a 2-minute natural release, and now I'm going to release that pressure. So I'm just going to grab this towel here, and I'm going to let that out. And it's kind of like the equivalent of when we do something like this, it's like the equivalent of like when you bring something to a boil and then you turn it down. Like we basically want it to continue to cook for a little bit, but not necessarily pressure cook because that's really, really hot. A pressure cook, you're looking at 112 to 116 degrees Celsius, and that's, comparably to like boiling water, which is 100 degrees Celsius. So that's, much, much hotter. So we don't want to continue it in that very intense environment for too long, because otherwise it's really going to start to break down the food. Okay. So I'm going to pop the lid on this one, and we're going to start to add in our other ingredients. So let's pull up our mac and cheese recipe here. Okay, so you're going to want to leave the water in the bottom like we talked about earlier because that's going to help keep everything nice and creamy. I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of milk first.
So you do all the cooking, Aiden?
Yeah.
Well, maybe my house husband's son will appreciate this. He does all the cooking now.
Yeah, I do all of it. And I'm going to put in the cream cheese too. I mean, honestly, I don't mind. I like doing it. Otherwise, I take it home.
Right.
All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually just going to stir the mac and cheese, you guys, and let the cream cheese just kind of melt, right? Because we have 1/3 of a cup in here, so it's a decent amount. We want it to break down, basically become, reconstituted as part of the sauce. So it takes a couple minutes. If you wanted to, you could cut it up into cubes. It would probably make it go a little bit faster. Not too much, but it is an option. So it's about 3/4 of the way melted now. So that's just about done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start adding in the remainder, the cheddar. So I'm going to use 2.5 cups. 2 cups is actually one of these packages. You can go ahead and toss the whole thing right in there. And then you just have to measure a 1/2 cup. So yeah, that's an 8-ounce package. All right, so I'm just going to give it a quick stir, and then I'm going to start to slowly pour in the remaining milk. And I noticed that our corn is actually finished, so I'm just going to release the steam for this. Oops. I also have a little bit of Parmesan. pour this in a little at a time, and I just keep stirring. Because otherwise it's going to be really, really thick. A little too thick for my preference here, for my palate. Even this looks a little thick for me, so I'm actually going to go ahead and add in a little bit more milk so I can thin it out. There we go. All right, so it's pretty good, and it's always kind of an experiment when you're using different brands. Cheddar, like I like to try them, you know, the different ones from time to time, but you're never really sure how they're going to melt or what the consistency is going to be like. So you have to be a little bit flexible and able to adjust. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a little. So this is the mac and cheese. This is what it looks like here.
Okay. Very creamy.
Very creamy, yeah.
Anything's better than Kraft's. Ugh.
Yeah, a little bit. I like to think anyway. And I'm going to show you the chicken right now. All right. So we're going to remove all the chicken. When the chicken finishes, this is what it looks like here. Nice piece of barbecue chicken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big barbecue chicken.
And I bet your children eat everything you make, right?
No.
I was going to say, I keep a couple of, not Kraft, but a different brand of mac and cheese in case my grandchildren won't eat anything I've made.
It's, yeah, no, they're, my older one's very picky. She has like a rotation of like 4 things. It's like pancakes and, you know,
Oh, I know.
Peanut butter and jelly, yeah. But, you know, it's, me too. I was a picky eater and now I eat a lot of different stuff. So.
Payback.
My mother sees this, she can attest to it. So let me get a slotted spoon. I'm going to remove the things we use for aromatics. So I'm taking out that onion. I'm removing the garlic.
So Patricia, you got things to cook now.
Oh my goodness, but I need the recipes. I'll have to go to your website to get the recipes.
Well, they're in the chat.
Okay.
And Aiden, is the additional one about barbecue ribs in the PDF?
I'm going to put it in the chat. I'll throw it in there in a second.
Oh,
Aiden,
all right.
What is your website? What's Aiden's website?
Pressure Cooker Passion, is that it?
That's the one. All right,
Okay,
so
wait.
what I'm doing now is I'm taking about half a cup of liquid and I'm going to remove it, okay? Our chicken's on the side, it's resting. All right, we're going to let it rest.
Well, what is your website, Aiden?
It is pressurecookerpassion.com.
Okay.
So it is pressurecookerpassion.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll throw the rib recipe in here.
And you should check out the pasta and peas. That was very good. We've made that. Well, it's another fast meal that, unless they don't like green things, they'll eat it.
You can always leave the peas out. Pasta and peas is a favorite.
Well, the bow tie pasta made it. It really worked well with that.
There you go. So that's the ribs. The ribs are actually very similar to the chicken. The difference is after you put the rub on, we use one of those racks. So we don't want them to submerge in there. and it cooks for a lot longer. It's like a 22-minute cook, but they're extremely tender when they come out. And you can finish them on the grill.
Is that on your website?
Yeah, I just put it in the
Great.
chat there.
Great.
Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to add in, so we have our base here for our sauce. I'm going to add in 2 cups of barbecue sauce. You can use any brand you want. You know, you can, if you wanted to make it from scratch, you could. In my experience, it's just a little bit easier to, I guess we would call it like jazz it up, something from the store. Because I've, you know, in my experience when I've made my own, it, you know, it tastes good, but it's, you know, comparable to one of these guys.
Not worth it.
It's a lot of work, and it's not always worth it. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in here. You got 1 cup.
So you've cooked the chicken in there, you've taken out some of the liquid, and now you're using the remaining liquid to make your barbecue sauce.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're using the same pot. Only
Exactly.
one thing to clean.
So they're one-pot wonders.
I like that.
One-pot wonder. Good name.
So, I'm actually going to throw I'm going to turn the saute function on. We'll let it saute a little. I'm going to whisk this in here to kind of get it evenly distributed. Okay. We'll let that heat up a little bit. Let's go. All right. And another thing you can do if you like, I like to do this, it's an optional step. I like to actually put in a little bit of the dry rub.
Dry rub you put in
Yeah,
there?
I throw just like a little, you know, maybe a tablespoon into the sauce. Adds a little more depth of flavor, and it's definitely like a touch of consistency from cook to sauce. So, okay. So as we mentioned earlier, we'll get a very nice piece of corn that's steamed.
Perfect.
Everything's extremely crisp on here still, so when you bite into it, you get a nice like, crunch. It doesn't feel soggy. It's not waterlogged. Corn is definitely one of the things that I see people doing a lot of more interesting things with these days. Like you can see Mexican corn sometimes when you go out to the farms where they put like peas on it and like some lime. I've seen people do like different compound butters on here. So like we'll throw out some I like an ancho chili butter, which is kind of interesting. So you get like a spicy corn. So yeah, there's a lot of fun ways you can put a twist on corn if you're kind of just tired of butter and salt.
Never tired of butter and salt.
That's what I was going to say. To me, that's the best way. But sometimes people are looking to spice it up or just do something a little different.
Go ahead.
I would just say you can Google it. Different types of corn recipes. You'll find a bunch.
I at times in my pressure cooker lined the basket with the outside of the corn. I don't know what you call that. The pieces of when you shuck the corn. The husk. Yes, yeah. Patricia, thank you. No words on Friday afternoon. And put it into the little steamer pan and then break the corn in half and put it in there. I don't know what it does, but it seems to make the corn, the flavor really strong.
Yeah. Well, you're not losing anything in the boiling. You're not losing any of the sugar.
No, not at all.
It's not bleeding into the water or anything like that. So, all right. So if we were to go for the cornbread in the Instant Pot, what we would do is we would take our little spring form pan, take our sugar guy here, and we would put it here like so. I'm going to grab a piece of tin foil, and we would actually put a nice tight seal with a piece of tin foil right on top of it. want to get it as tight as you can. All right. So basically, when we do the cornbread here, what's happening is obviously we're cooking with steam, right? So steam's going to create condensation on the lid, and the condensation is going to drip. When you're doing foods like chicken or macaroni and cheese, it's not a big deal. When you're doing a bread, that's a problem because then it can become extremely soggy or kind of damp in the middle. So what we do is we put a little piece of tinfoil on here to protect it, okay? We drop it into this. And we set it to pressure cook for 55 minutes. Pressure cook. And it just takes a minute for it to get up to that time. Okay, cool. 55 minutes. Good to go. And there's this. When it comes out, this is what it looks like.
Beautiful.
It's very bright light in here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could do some. I don't know if this, I think it probably, but yeah, you can get a little more of the color on it. But it is a really nice yellow.
Looks great.
And it does taste really good. It's pretty low effort. You saw we whipped it together. Okay. So our sauce should be good to go now. Yep, it's starting to boil a little bit. I'm going to hit cancel. So depending on how you like the consistency of your sauce, will dictate like how long you can cook it down for. So you could obviously put it on saute and put it on low and kind of let it reduce, for as long as you would like. You get a really thick flavorful sauce. I actually like my sauce to be have a little bit of vinegar and tang in it. So I actually might even add a little bit of vinegar after the fact to kind of give it that effect. And it's a looser sauce. Some barbecue sauce is very thick and sugary. Vinegar one is a lot looser. So you have options now, right? So you can take your piece of chicken, right? Whatever it may be. You can brush it with the sauce that we just made. You could throw it on the grill, and finish it that way and caramelize your sauce. You could put it under your broiler and do that. Or if you're doing a boneless chicken like this, you could shred it, right? So you can have a cold chicken. You could toss it right back into the pot. So that's what I'm actually going to do today. So you basically can use 2 forks to shred it, whatever you want. Throw it in there, let it reconstitute, stir it around, and let it set. And you'll have some really great flavor. So here's my shredder. I actually use this guy. I'm just going to shred everything. Here. Go right on this pan so you guys can see what it looks like. We lost a cup. All right. Throw it right on here. And you can just shred it up. And shred it. And obviously, slice the loose meat over here. Like that. I like it to be a little thick. And then right back into the pot.
Starving. I've been working all morning, so I'm starving. Isn't there a rest area we could meet or something? LIE?
That's only
I
fair.
actually moved.
That's
so
right.
I'm very far away from you. So I don't know.
Oh, I'd probably die on my way there. Okay.
Yeah, so once we shred them up, I would shred up all these pieces. Now that I've let them rest for a few minutes, which is, think the way to do it, because then you're not going to lose a lot of the moisture in the chicken, which is kind of a problem. If you shred it too early, you'll notice that like a lot of the juices are kind of falling out, and then it gets a little dry. So. So I'll definitely let it sit in there for a few more minutes, but at the end of the day, you have a nice pulled chicken, barbecue pulled chicken. You can have it any time of year, but really tasty. You can have it on a sandwich. You can have it, just on a plate with a fork. We do it that way if you're trying to cut out your carbs. Rice, a million different ways you can eat it. But that's the gist of it, guys. That's my program.
Well, thank you very much.
Presentation.
Oh, we can give you a reaction, right? Here we go. I never use these, but there's a thumbs up.
Thank you.
5 stars.
5 stars. I'm starving. Okay.
Need a care package.
I probably should be quiet and let's get back to Aiden. Aiden, say something so we get you back. Anyway,
So please visit my website, Pressure Cooker Passion.
I will.
And thank you so much. Stay safe.
Okay, and this will be on our YouTube channel as soon as I can convert it. Okay.
Oh,
All right. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you
Bye,
back
everyone.
in the building. Nice to meet you, Patricia. Bye-bye.